Here is Carmen, we were just mentioning. And hello, Mark. Hello to Dao. Intl.Dhamma.
Hello, hello.
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 Intl.Dhamma. Hello, Carmen. Good to see you.
Hello.
Hi, Carmen.
Hello, Carmen.
Good morning, good afternoon.
I think Ajahn is here now as well. Are you here, Ajahn?
Everyone.
Sawadika.
Sawadika.
Nina, have you got a topic you would like to start with? And then I'm sure other people will join.
Yes. I had quite some events yesterday because there was a leakage. People were working and they were so very depressed that it happened. But I explained, no, that's by conditions. And the wife of the worker was interested. We had such a nice talk about how things are beyond control, like this event that there is a leakage. We can't control it. And she lost a dear friend. And also that is beyond control. So we had a very good talk about that. But I have a kind of question or observing something that Ajahn often says. We say seeing is not I. We understand seeing is not I. And then Ajahn says that is not enough. And I get it that it is not understanding the nature of the object that appears. And that is very important. But I think it's very useful if Ajahn can explain a little more about seeing is not I, and that is not enough. Maybe it's just thinking, because intellectual understanding is not thinking, and the difference has to be understood.
The benefit.
John, we've lost your sound.
Actually, sorry. The benefit of listening to any kind of words is to understand the meaning of it and also the truth of it. Are we talking about the truth of what is there now? There is seeing. And what is seeing? No thought about it at all. And how come? Because before seeing, there's no seeing. And then there is seeing, and then later that can be hearing or thinking or other things, not seeing at all. But seeing is still there as now. We are talking, the word, the hearing, the thinking, sound and so on. But there is still seeing. Does anyone make it arise? Does anyone stop its arising at all? Impossible. That's why what is the truth of seeing? Because it's there as a birth every day. Now there is seeing until dark or night or sleep. So what is it? Can it be known as it is? Because when there's no understanding, whatever experiences an object, it's I, because no one else at all at moment of seeing. So there is no understanding of the nature of seeing as it is. That's why when it's there, see, who, see, no one. So the moment of experiencing an object is there. So the idea of I see, that is I who see, is there. Because no understanding of the truth of the nature of seeing. So we study just one reality at a time, just to understand. Until the understanding is firm enough, more confidence of the truth, understand the moment of ignorance and moment of understanding the truth. Because it's true at this moment, but it's not known as it is. How come to be seeing right now? And when it's gone, there is hearing, no thinking about seeing, that it's not there anymore. Just all these words, it can condition moment of understanding, whether seeing is I or seeing is just a reality. Because before seeing arises, where's I? And when there is seeing, how come to be I see? Because before seeing, where is I? What is I? But when there is seeing, that moment, how come I see? Because not understanding the conditions for seeing to arise, just to see. So if seeing is I is only seeing, not at the moment of hearing or thinking at all. That's why just develop the understanding of the truth. What is true? That's all. No idea to experience it, to let go of the wrong understanding or anything. Just what is true. What is the truth of what is there? As it is, not as we think about it, whether it's still there all the time. That's why begin to be truthful to the truth, to understand the nature of that which is now appearing, which no one can change at all. Nobody can change the moment of seeing to be other thing, but it's there, arising to see and then saw. If it does not arise, there will never be seeing, no moment of seeing at all. But it's there by conditions. Before understanding conditions for its arising, how come to be there? What is it? No idea at all. And then when there are few words talking about it, the nature of it, it's moment of understanding what is true and what is not true. For example, there is seeing right now, so true. But what is it? If there is no considering about the reality, the nature, the characteristic of that which is now appears, it's impossible to understand seeing. It just see, that's all. No idea that it's real. It arises just to see because it now sees. It cannot change to hear, to be hearing or thinking or anything, because it says already, it's arrives to hear, to see, not to do anything, not to be any other reality at all. Just begin to understand what is true in a moment and what is the truth of what is there in a moment. That's all. This is the way to learn to be true to the reality or whatever is there as it is. For example, that which is seen, the truth, it's seen. So it's already seen. And then when it's not seen, where is it? No idea about it, because it does not appear at the other moment, but it appears now when there is seen. It's that which is seen, because seeing arises just to see it. Is that true or not true? Begin to be truthful to reality as it is, to understand the truth. Seeing arises and seeing falls away, never to arise again. So where's the I? The idea of I see, it's just only thinking. And unknowingly is there already. The thinking is there, but it's not seeing. Who knows? Each moment is moment of reality. It's so true when it's there. And then it's gone, never to arise again. What is I? What can be taken for I? It's gone completely, never to arise again. Just have firm confidence of the truth little by little. And that's the way to understand that whatever appears now cannot be taken for anything at all. It's as it is. It is as it is. What is seen is only that which is seen. It cannot be tasted. It cannot be touched. It cannot be heard, but it can be seen, a reality. And who conditioned that to arise to be seen? Impossible. It's there already by conditions. That's why learning to understand that seeing is just a reality. It is conditioned to arise to see, that's all. And then it's gone. Is that true? Just be truthful to the truth little by little. And that is the way to let go the idea of self. When there's more understanding of the truth, little by little, to be the precise moment of understanding just one reality at a time. And it means that it appears well because it appears just one, the nature of that only, not the other at all, at a time. When they're together, so many things, how can what appears to be clear? Impossible because they are together. But when it appears just one, and when there's no understanding, ignorance is there. It's something because the nature of that which arises in false way does not appear yet. Right now, it's there, arising and falling away. It's not known because it does not appear as it is. It appears together with many things to form up the idea of something with shape and form and smell and taste and everything. At moment of touching, at moment of smelling, there are only 6 doorways in life, no matter what life, no matter what world. That's why what is 6 doorways? Is it I? If it does not arise, where's that? It's taken to be mind instantly when it's there. That's why to understand what is true and what is not true, this is the beginning of parami. Until it's so firm, the truth is that seeing is just seeing. It arises to see only, and then it's gone. Whatever arises has to gone, to be gone, instantly, unknowingly all the time. Is that true? Moment of seeing, it's not moment of hearing, it's not moment of thinking. Is that true? So it has to be just one moment at a time. And what is that? When we call or we take it for a moment, there must be a reality and only one there because it's only one moment. Seeing cannot be together with hearing in a moment. So moment of seeing, it's not moment of hearing. Moment of that which is seen, it's not moment of that which is heard. Just one moment all the time. Begin to understand the truth, that's all. Because nothing can be done or can be created or can be changed at all. The truth is the truth. Just the truth of life, the truth of reality, the truth of a moment, eons and eons ago, and eons ahead, non-stop, as long as there are conditions for whatever arises. It has to arise by conditions to be just that moment, just that reality. Nothing can be done, it's gone. To understand the truth, that's why this can be remembered by sanya, a reality which marks and remembers what is heard, what is seen. And then it can arise again, remember what is heard, short moment ago or long moment ago. This is life. So what is life? If there's no considering about each moment, what is life? It's just in a moment when it's there. So if there's no reality which arises to experience an object, can there be I? But when it's there, arising and falling away, no understanding of the truth, So what appears, experience, the eye is there experience. No matter seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. But they are gone instantly. Just understanding the truth little by little, not at a particular moment, but by conditions anytime when it's ready to arise, to perform its function, and then gone. Cannot stay longer at all, cannot last. It arises just to perform the function as it is, seeing. Is seeing. But seeing is different from that which is seen for sure, because what is seen depends on whether that can experience or that cannot experience. But what is seen, that which is seen, cannot understand anything, cannot know anything. It's the reality which just is seen. It cannot think, it cannot like, it's only that which can impinge on the eye gaze, arupa, special one, different from hardness and softness, conditioned by Dhamma. If you know a little more about it, the source of it. But in the beginning, no thought about the story of seeing and that which is seen, just to begin to understand it, it's there by conditions. That which is seen cannot experience anything. At moment of life of this life, there can be a moment of knowing life as it has that particular characteristic, just to be attached. Whatever is there, it arises to attach. It can be known, but not through eyes or ears or tongue. What is there is known by a reality which arises to experience it, no matter what in a day, and even now. Just learn to understand the truth. That's the moment of understanding which condition the letting go of the idea of I, wrong understanding, because it's just a moment conditioned to arise and then falls away instantly. All the time now, arising and falling away. What is heard is a reality which can be heard. It is not anyone or anything at all. It's not the sound of music. It's not the sound of the airplane. It's just that which is heard in a moment. So what appears is just a reality, which is conditioned to arise. Otherwise, it cannot appear at all. That's why, in truth, there's no one and no thing. There are only the absolute reality. To be the one which arises to experience, and the other, it arises by condition, but cannot experience anything at all. Is that true now? Just begin to know what is true in a moment. Can it bring about the understanding of it cannot be taken for anyone because it's completely gone, everything, just a moment ago, and even this moment, any moment, never lasts.
And when we think about the situation, like Nina mentioned about the leakage, everyone will think there is something that I can do. One can decide to call the plumber or the electrician, one can turn off the taps, one can take particular action. So just thinking about situations, it's impossible to let go of the idea of I. It's only by understanding more about what the reality is now or then, when it appears, that there can be the beginning to understand, as Ajahn was stressing, that no one can do anything, no one can change what has been conditioned at all. So often people talk about free will, or last week there was discussion about with the idea that I can decide whether kusala or akusala arises when the titas have the function of jhana. But this is because it's not the understanding of the reality now, such as seeing. Can anyone stop seeing arising now? Can anyone stop seeing falling away? It's conditioned to arise, it's conditioned to fall away. And it's exactly the same with all kinds of dhammas, those dhammas that experience an object and those dhammas that don't experience anything. Whatever arises, arises for a moment by conditions and then is gone instantly. So even a moment of attachment now, no one can choose not to have attachment if there are conditions for attachment to arise. It's arisen and fallen away instantly, not in anyone's control. So this is why we keep coming back to this moment and considering about the reality now, because as Nina said at the beginning, just saying seeing is not I is not enough. There has to be the understanding of the reality itself that sees at this moment, to begin to understand that it's just a Dhamma that arises by conditions, experiences what is visible and is gone. The idea of I, and I can choose, and I can decide, and I can create karma. All these ideas are very, very deeply rooted. So we have to come back to study again and again. What is there now? Like doubt now, or boredom now, or kindness now. It's conditioned. No one chose to have doubt or boredom. No one can stop it if there are conditions. So whatever arises has to fall away instantly. It's not in anyone's control at all. And this is the meaning of anatta. All dhammas are anatta, not in anyone's control, even for a moment or an instant.
Now open your mic.
Yeah. Anyone can say seeing is not I, but this makes it clear that one really has to consider and understand the true nature, and that it is only for a moment and falls away immediately. So many things to consider. Otherwise, it's just a story.
Someone may say, oh, I don't know what to do if there is no self. I think we had a discussion about this last time, but actually it's the truth now. Seeing arises by conditions. No one can do anything because there is no one to do. So it's not a matter of thinking, oh, what shall I do if there is no self? Because it's how life is anyway. So it's just a fantasy that usually I can do something, like I can call the plumber, I can turn off I can stop the leakage. This is just a conventional idea, but the seeing now, no one can stop seeing arising. No one can stop it falling away.
But about the leakage, she put her hand in and something else to stop the leakage. But that's all in conventional sense, of course. but then it can be done in conventional thing. We can't let go the leakage.
But in truth, what is the leakage? Because there are moments of seeing, moments of hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and thinking. So when there is the idea of leakage, actually it's thinking about what has been seen, what has been heard. The memory is marking what is seen, what is heard, what is thought about. So without the seeing and the hearing and the thinking, there would be no leakage at all. So in truth, each moment, each reality is conditioned. No I that can turn it off or do anything at all. But that's why we have to come back to understanding the truth at this moment.
Here, it's really difficult to understand the difference between the conventional reality and the absolute reality, because she burned her hand and it hurts. But it's by conditions.
Nina, like you were saying, right, that what Sarah was saying, that there's no one and all that to be able to control. It's just like we might think that we can do something like I can open my eyes, raise arm and all that. But actually it has to be the understanding that that is Dhamma. That it's not you who thinking is Dhamma. So even there's a thought of doing self and all that like this. Even all of these are atta, but in truth that also are Dhamma, which is anatta. All Dhamma anatta, even to the Dhamma that thinks about self, wrong view, that also are anatta as well.
Even when talking about the burning of the hand, if there wasn't the bodily experience with the strong, painful feeling and the experiencing of the heat, could there be any idea of burning the hand? And what is the hand? Is there a hand in reality, or what is it? Because at the moment of that bodily experience and painful feeling, it's just the heat that is experienced, but this thinking about, I've burnt my hand. So we live in the dream world, but actually there are just the different realities, those realities which are experiencing and those realities experienced. And the memory conditions the idea of thinking about, this is my hand, this is my burnt hand, I've burnt myself.
I guess this must be a difficult point for many people. I understand that.
And Nina, even if you think in conventional terms, you could ask that person, did she at any point wanted her hands to be burnt? I mean, it just happened by conditions, isn't it?
Happened by conditions, true.
And at that moment of very painful feeling, could she stop it? Could she make the painful feeling go away? Impossible, because there were conditions for it.
Yeah.
So it's just like now, the seeing now, the hearing now, the pleasant feeling or the painful feeling, each one is conditioned and gone instantly. But if we think about what were the realities at that time, it will never bring us closer to understanding what is the reality appearing right now. So it always has to come back to this moment, because now there's no painful bodily feeling like that, but maybe pleasant feeling. Even the pleasant feeling is gone instantly. No one can make it stay. No one could make it arise. It's just a reality that experiences with pleasant feeling and then is gone instantly, not in anyone's control. And the strong dosa, the strong aversion on account of the painful feeling, no one wishes to have dosa or more unpleasant feeling. But after the burning, conditions for more unpleasant feeling and thinking and dosa, no one can stop it at will. it's there, it's arisen, and then it's gone instantly. But by understanding more about the truth that they are dhammas that are conditioned, not self, it is the only way that gradually there will be conditions for more kusala, less akusala through understanding, but not through I wishing to have less akusala.
Yes, it helps a lot to realize that each reality is so short and is immediately gone. And we always think that they stay. And then there are all the stories.
Even when we speak like that they are all just dhamma, no me, no self, but even that also later we may have feeling also to control that, oh, it's actually in the trap already, that actually most layer of wrong will. So like, you understand the point, right?
Each one by conditions, each moment of thinking. Like last time, I think we were talking about attending at each moment, and attending wisely or attending unwisely. So considering about how reality now is anatta, wisely or unwisely, whatever arises is conditioned. And only the panya can understand now whether it is right or wrong this very moment.
Yeah, and Ajahn always stresses that there has to be great confidence in the truth. And that is only when there is more right understanding, there is more confidence.
And more wise consideration and wise reflection, not just the Suttamaya Panya, the hearing what is true, but the Chintamaya Panya, the considering again and again, the understanding from the considering, the reflecting, and only this can lead to the Bhavanamaya Panya, the direct understanding of realities. So the considering, the reflecting about the reality at this moment, pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling, seeing, hearing, what was appearing now is very, very important. It's not enough just to hear the truth, but there has to be the reflection again and again.
And Thanachan used to saying that all coming here Dhamma again and again is like starting, beginning, because we all have to come back beginning all the time, beginning and all. So it's never enough.
And that is very good. Well, she says, begin again, begin again. And an event like this, like a leakage, make me think, and then I understand it's difficult. But when there is another thing, someone dies, that seems more easy to understand, that it is all conditioned and nobody can control it. It seems easier to understand.
And it's not we that come back again and again to now. It has to be, because life is always at this moment. So whether we like it or not, whether there's right understanding or not, life is just at this moment, and the understanding can only ever be now. But no we to come back, no we to do anything at all. And yes, no one chooses death at the end of life, but actually no one chooses death at this moment. So at each moment there is the falling away of what is arisen. There is the death at each moment, not by anyone's choice, but by condition. Mark or Nisa or Carmen, I picked up some of the points that have been mentioned about free will and not knowing what to do without a self and wishing to choose and decide. Any comments on any of the points that have been discussed so far today?
Well,
Nina, a while back, Nina said, it's very easy to see that seeing is not self. I suppose that is true, but what happens when there is seen that seeing is not self, immediately the notion comes in that I am seeing that seeing is not self. So the identification just shifts to the I. That's so it's not so it is not so easy, as also in the case of the leakage. Like no one chooses to do the leakage, but then the I comes in and makes a phone call, and the plumber comes, and the leakage disappears. So there seems to be a proof that there is an I. It's sometimes there is no I, like the leakage just appears, and then the I comes in and settles the leakage by calling the plumber. I don't wish to say that there is an I, but it's easy to have the illusion of an I. Because really there is a thought, I don't want a leakage, I am phoning the plumber comes and the leakage is gone. So I did a good job, I prevented the leakage. But if you go to the realities, if you go to the story, like the theory of Dhamma, which I know you all say it's not a theory, but if I do treat it as a story and go to the theory of Dhamma, I can see that there is no I. But at the same time, there is always the proof that there is an I, because I can phone the plumber. It's just a comment. And it's the thing that makes it which makes the belief in I comes back all the time. I suppose that's not a problem, but
I think
happening.
I think what you said then, Mark, that there's the proof. I mean, I think, excuse me, I think there's the apparent proof, but
Yes.
it's not a proof. You know, perhaps that's what you meant actually.
Well, it's very easy to be taken for proof.
Excuse me. Make a comment on what Mark is saying. I had my hand up. Sorry, Cinder. You know, we're so used to, we've over gazillion lifetimes, we've all come to believe in the I. It's so ingrained that no matter how many years you've been studying Dhamma, the I always comes up all the time. It's something that's ingrained. So it's something that you have to basically deal with patience. Wrong view. So you say, yes, that's wrong view. I am doing this, but I know that it's not I doing this, or whatever it is.
But it's not you.
It's not something that can be eliminated right away. It's something that you'd have to develop patience to deal with.
Yes, but that patience is only comes by conditions. So
oh, sure, it comes back all the time.
You can't be patient, and you can't tell
It comes back all the time. It's there all the time. You can be studying Dhamma for 20 years, 30 years, whatever, and still the sense of I comes back when you're not thinking about Dhamma.
I think it can even be there when you are thinking about Dhamma. I think when we are talking about Dhamma, the I is there as well.
I see. Okay.
Most of the time.
Right. It's there all the time, because, as I said, it's so ingrained that, and for somebody to say, just begin their studies of the Dhamma and start to have some realization that they're of anatta, it's very, I guess, discouraging when the I is constantly appearing or thinking about the I. And it's again, as I said, it's a matter of patience to understand that, so that when there's this feeling, I am doing this, I am doing that, eventually the thought will also arise, no, it is not I doing that. So it's a matter of patience to go through it.
Yes, I agree. And also having a little fun, I think.
Sorry?
And also having a little fun, I think. Be interested in what's said and enjoying what is said and enjoying the wisdom which is shared.
Yeah, I like the way you've expressed that, Mark, you know, to be intellectually curious, but I often feel that's conditioned too, because as we know, there will always be, you know, people have their own views because of certain conditions, because of that's the way, you know, that they are. So, or generally speaking, this is some point we've covered it many times before. This aspect of, you know, because we use I, it doesn't, you know, or we have to use language, and that doesn't mean it's like, and we've spoken about this dozens of times, probably much more than that. The bhikkhus, enlightened bhikkhus in the Buddha's time, the Buddha himself, they had to use conventional language. So just because you avoid the use of I doesn't mean anything. It can just mean more wrong view, actually. So it is a tricky subject in some respects, but I think it'll always come back to what Tanajan and Sarah have been alluding to today, that if there can be the understanding that there are realities appearing, and that is always the field that we can work in. And it doesn't matter if we use we or I or whatever, but it's always, the word's not important, it's the understanding that's the important thing. And I do appreciate, for some people, like you're talking about the leak before and different leaks and fixing the leaks, etc. There's just a big, which can be just a big long story. But even amongst that, for some people with some understanding, there can be some moments of understanding. Even when the leak is fixed, you don't have to have the idea that I fixed the leak. So we get captured by conventional language, and it can be very misleading. We'll always come back to the reality that appears, and we can so easily be forgetful about that.
Yes, and also it's like, even in these discussions we're having now, it's how do you say that? My own understanding of I and not I is there's also graduation in that. Sometimes I see a glimmer of what it is that there is no I, and many times I am also fooled by me thinking, me being angry, me being happy. So
well, you know,
it's how you say that. My English is sometimes very bad. It goes up and down, and sometimes there's a glimmer of understanding, and sometimes it goes away.
And that can show to us too, you know, that's the nature of Dhamma, that's the nature of reality. Sometimes there can be conditions for a little bit more confidence and a little bit more understanding. Sometimes we can feel a little bit more fragile and doubtful, and they're just other Dhammas that are arising under different conditions. That's just the nature of things. That we can't say, I'm going to be like this all the time. That would be impossible. You know, we're subject to all sorts of vagaries of chitta, and the more confidence we can have in the truth of this present moment, that's always a condition for better understanding, obviously. But we can never say, oh, well, I'm going to have more understanding now, or whatever, or less, or whatever. It's just not like that. It's just that's not in the nature of conditioned dhammas. The less idea we have of control at any level, and that can be very, very subtle at times, but the less idea of control, the better. The more conditions for just understanding things as they are, and that will arise by conditions, not something that we can determine at any time. So it's quite subtle, the path, and I think the more we can appreciate that, the better it will be.
Mark,
And still, there's another thing. Someone said, I think, if I wish to listen to these discussions because I want to have more understanding, it seems that bit, which obviously seems akusala, does maybe condition some understanding, because I am being here, looking at the screen and listening to wise words being said, which can condition understanding.
Oh,
So
certainly.
for some, wanting to understand sometimes apparently conditions understanding, or am I?
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, yeah, I mean, we're listening to Dhamma. I mean, kusala can condition akusala, kusala can condition kusala. It works in different ways. So if one says, I'm going to listen to this Dhamma talk and have kusala all the time, well, of course, that will be impossible. But we will know when we listen to people, there can be conditions for careful consideration of what's been said, and there can be conditions for sati and panya to arise. So that's always valuable, to be able to reflect wisely. And if we just to say, oh well, I've got Dhamma now, I don't need to listen anymore, that's equally wrong. So yeah, there's always going to be conditions for a kusala in whatever level, and that can be very subtle. They can be quite insidious at times, but I have confidence in the fact that if we listen more carefully, there can be conditions for more sati and panya to arise. But that won't be something that I can do. It's something that will happen by its own support conditions. I think that the more that's appreciated, yeah, that will be good.
I want to add small point. Like we understand that Dhamma is no self, all are Dhamma and all that, and maybe you expect that to have lesser wrong view in the daily life, but that is wrong. It's not you cannot think that, oh, I listen to this, okay, no view, no me, no that, no only all Dhammas, and in daily life I'm going to have less wrong view and all that. But no, Dhamma is meant to be understand. We all have accumulated wrong view for so long time. Every day is like this. Samsara befalls. So I, and it has to be like this. But Panya understand that it's just a Dhamma, because all are anatta. You can't think that you're going to have to get less wrong view after listening. That is not right. But to understand that they are all anatta, even the wrong view they understand as atta, all are also anatta, not no one as well.
No, I think when I see some when I see a glimmer of understanding, it's not because I want the understanding. It is just because the conditions are right to make that understanding appear. So the control I want of having understanding is not so much the cause for the understanding. Well. I'm turning around, but I do understand something. it's no use wanting to have understanding, but the understanding can appear.
Yes, and can we say that the moments of understanding, like now, arise in spite of the wishing and the wanting and the ideas of control? So there can be moments of wise reflection, even though at other moments are wishing and wanting and trying and so on. And it's not a matter of the understanding going up and down. It's like seeing. There are conditions for seeing to arise, and then it's gone. Conditions for understanding to arise, and then it's gone. Conditions for wrong view to arise, and then it's gone. None of them belonging to I, not my understanding that goes anywhere. Just sometimes conditions for it to arise amongst all the akusala, and other times not.
Yes, and it's also, it's so, if there is a little bit of understanding, it's so easy to view that as my understanding.
Right. And for clinging to come in instantly. Oh,
Yes.
I got it. Or like you said, we can hear about seeing is not self. And then there can be the idea, oh, I can understand that seeing is not self, or I'm seeing that seeing is not self. So this is the nature of realities, each one conditioned, moments of kusala, moments of akusala, and the lobha is so tricky, always there, ready to cling to what is experienced, but they're all dharmas, and it has to be like that. It can't be any other way. But the clinging, the trying to understand, the wishing to experience hinders the development of understanding, developing naturally. All that trying and doing and focusing is a big hindrance to understanding, developing, understanding just what appears now.
Yes.
And with regard to the example of the making the phone call and the leak disappearing and how easy it is to have the illusion of self, it's because nothing is understood about reality at this moment. It's just a story. I can decide to go and watch a movie or not, but it's not the understanding of seeing now or thinking. Each intention, each moment of thinking, each moment of liking or disliking, each reality is conditioned at this very moment without understanding more about reality now, one at a time. Impossible to ever understand that there's no one there.
Yes, but it's also, I like making the phone call, having the leak disappear. It is something which seems to be very easy to experience. And the experience of the seeing is almost impossible. The seeing just now coming and disappearing. So there
There
seems
is the
to be
idea of I can be aware of making the phone call. It's just a long story, a lot of thinking. So it's conventional awareness is not the reality of awareness, which is aware of seeing or thinking or hardness, just a reality.
Yes, it
Like
seems to be. It seems to be not only that understanding is helpful for understanding, but also clinging to the belief of I who can make a phone call. So letting that, if it is possible to let go the notion of I who are making the phone call, that's also helpful to be able to understand. Just having that belief not so solid in place anymore.
And what do you mean by letting go the idea of I then, Mark?
Well, it's if I have a leak and I make a phone call and the leak disappears, I believe very strongly that it is I who made that phone call. And if I keep believing that, if there's a strong belief in I who made that phone call, it's impossible to see that the I maybe is not there. So it's also being, if there's a possibility to relax in the clinging to the conventional reality, it's easier to see the
Yeah, how would that be attained though?
Oh, well.
And that's the question. Let me ask you this question. The person who no longer has any idea of self, would they still make the phone call to get the leak fixed?
Sure, yes, sure.
Yes. So there's no point talking about situations, because talking about situations doesn't get to the root of what the Buddha taught.
Well, in the situation we are talking, my point is that what is happening with the phone call and the leak, it seems to be a strong it is a strong proof for the I, in the eyes of the I.
If one takes it that way, it would be because that is one's accumulated tendency.
Sure, yeah.
Right. So it very much depends on the individual, the extent to which a given situation is seen to be confirming the existence of an I or self.
Yes, I should be.
And that's why we can't really talk about situations. But as I understand it, the path to letting go, as you say, of the idea of self is really something that Ajahn mentioned earlier. And she said, the nature of that which arises and falls away does not appear yet. And it's only when understanding of conditioned realities has been developed, or as that understanding is developed, that the notion of an I who has control of things will gradually be worn away. And it's not by us letting go, but it's panya that does or achieves the what we would take to be me letting go, but that's an idea of self again. So it's difficult, but as we all know, little by little, when the Dhamma is heard repeatedly and considered over and over again, then gradually the possibility of that understanding developing further can be seen. But as long as if we're too entranced by the situations, then it's difficult to begin to realize the significance of having awareness and understanding of any reality that appears at the present moment.
Yes.
Because we think there is a precondition. We think that the condition for that awareness and understanding to arise is the letting go of the idea of self. But it's the other way around, really.
Yes, and I think I don't think I meant it that way. That we should be that we need to let go of the I. That's not what I really meant, I think.
No, I don't think you did, but I'm just speaking generally that it's easy to think that our strong idea of self is an obstacle to the development of awareness and understanding. Well, it is in a sense, of course, especially if it leads us into wrong practice. But it doesn't have to be if there is the opportunity to hear the Dhamma and to share one's understanding of the Dhamma with others, so that this is what is called in the Dhamma the straightening of views.
Thank you.
And Ajahn, would you add
I think, Mark, what you're trying to point out is that unlike the situation now where if there was wrong understanding, even when there's wrong understanding, there's still a chance hearing the Dhamma. I mean, if for someone who has, if it's this kind of discussion is not there, it's a different kind of discussion, there'll always be the idea of that person, I'm sitting here engaging in a Zoom discussion, and in front of me there's a computer, and on the other end there are so many people. So what you're saying is that in that situation, like the calling the plumber, etc., it's not the same as now. Like you're here, you're listening to Dhamma. But if it's in daily life, where you don't get a chance to hear the Dhamma and you're not reminded about Dhamma, it's so easy to, to go wrong, right?
Ajahn, would you like to add anything?
I think that if there's no understanding of a moment, it cannot be the understanding of anything at all. Just consider each word. If there's no understanding of a moment, there can never be the understanding, the truth of whatever is there in life at all. No matter years and years ago, what is meant by a moment, even just one word. See, when we talk about many situations, so many uncountable moments, but what is there in each moment? And what is meant by a moment? No understanding, just think about it in one's own way, one's own thinking, one's own thoughts. But in truth, what is there? A moment. What is a moment? What does it mean? Nothing or something or what? A moment. We don't talk about what we used to think about people and things, food and dishes and so on. Just a moment. Is there a moment? And what is there? A moment. And what is the truth of that very moment? When there's no understanding of moment, how can there be the understanding of what is there? From moment to moment, many moments, we're talking about different situations. So many uncountable moments. But what is there? Just in a moment, one moment only.
It's so hard to experience one moment.
Please go on.
It's gone.
I think he said, Ajahn, he said it's so hard to experience just one moment.
No, experiencing, no. Whatever, just what is there, this is the beginning. Experience without understanding what is there. Experience what? No understanding. That's why it has to begin. So very little, a moment to moment, to condition the understanding of what is there in a moment, or what is a moment. See, we think that we understand a lot, understand the word, what it means, but the truth, what is the truth of that we are talking about? It's easy to say life exists in a moment, but what is meant by a moment? And what is there in a moment? Without understanding one moment, what is there? How can there be the understanding of anything in life? Because no understanding of a moment. That's why the teachings of the Buddha is so very subtle. And the understanding has to be so subtle in order to understand the subtlety of what is there now. Many uncountable moments. No understanding of any moments. So begin to understand the truth of what is there. Because it's true, but it does not appear as it is. See, who can say this? What is there appearing does not appear as it is at all. So begin to learn about the truth of a moment. There must be a moment of what? And what is there? Just in a moment only. Never arise again. Never appears again. So what is there in a moment is the beginning to understand each moment in life as it can be experienced, to learn about the absolute truth. What is there now? How many moments? And what are there in many moments? Uncountable moments. This is the beginning to understand just one moment, one reality. I hear the phone call. How many moments? What is heard? How come the idea of the phone? And how come call? What is meant by call? It's the moment of hearing. Hearing is hearing only. There cannot be other, what we take for this and that in a moment. And even in a moment, what are they? So very subtle. And beginning to consider the truth of the words about now as it is, little by little, to consider carefully whether it's true or not, in order to be truthful to the truth. Otherwise, there cannot be the understanding of the truth at all, because the truth is now at this very moment. But what is there? What is a moment? That's why beginning to understand a moment that cannot be taken for anything at all, only an absolute reality appearing as the object. But there are also other reality to condition that moment too, unknown. That's why learn to understand just one reality at a time and in a moment, to know what moment is there from now on. It's a moment of what? A moment of no understanding of what is there as a truth, as it's so true, as it is. Sound, we don't have to use the word sound, but it's a reality, and we don't have to use it's heard. But the moment of hearing, we don't use any word that I am hearing or it's heard. But what is there in a moment? Just in a moment, never arise again. It's there by conditions and then gone instantly. Is that true? But so many moments now, if there's no understanding of what is there in a moment, it's impossible to let go ignorance, not understanding the truth of what is there as it is. Just thinking about, if nothing arises at all, can there be a moment? See, no idea. But when something is there, moment of hearing, even we don't use the word hearing or moment, but it's there. And what is the truth of that? It's only that which can be heard and then gone. Hearing cannot arise to hear that which has gone at all. So there are so many things or realities to be studied carefully to understand the truth, the absolute truth, in order just to let go ignorance and the idea of I. How can there be the idea of I if there's no reality which arises and experience anything at all? Impossible. The tree doesn't think that it's me or I'm a tree. So whenever there is the reality which is there arising and experiencing an object, as it experiences, it knows that's I, which know instantly, unknowingly, all the time. But is it true? Or it's just a reality? No one can stop its arising at all. All are Abhidhamma, Paramadadhamma, absolute truth, not belong to anyone, not in anyone's control. And who knows that it's conditioned to arise to just be that reality, hearing. If we don't use the word, it hears, it's there and gone, never to arise again. So if there is more understanding of the truth of that which is conditioned to arise and then gone instantly, never to arise again, can it be taken for I? It's gone, never to arise again, no matter what. And what is there in a moment must be the absolute truth. But it's not known as it is just a reality. The arising and falling away so very fast, incredible how fast it is. As one opens one's eyes, so many things around. How come? Each one has to impinge on the eye base as is seen only, but different object which is seen, arising and falling away so very quickly, condition, shape, and form, right now, instantly. Even that it's no thinking about it at all, it's there already. But in truth, what is there? Just in a moment, only a moment, which is different from the next moment, on and on and on. That's why ignorance is there. The succession of the arising and falling away so very quickly, different objects is experienced, but they arise and fall away unknowingly. What is made is the nimitta, to be known as shade and form, and take it for something. And that's why I hear the phone call. But in truth, in a moment, the absolute truth cannot be taken for anything permanent at all. It's gone. But since the reality arising and falling away so very rapidly, the object does not appear as it is. Is this true? Because they are different. Even the reality which is seen cannot be the same at all. Shade and color and whatever is there, taken for something. And the idea of I experience it, because whatever arises and experience, it knows it's I. Otherwise, when it cannot experience, there's no idea of I at all, no experiencing at all. That's why learning to understand just a moment what is there can lead to more understanding of no one and no thing. Not just believe from the very beginning that there's no I, but in truth, what is there? Can it be I? Seeing? It's not the I base. It's not that which can be seen. It's unreality. And when there is the reality which is conditioned to arise, can anyone stop it, change it? Impossible. It's gone. No matter you try to remember it, cling to it, it's not there anymore. Just a moment, condition a moment of understanding little by little, until it's strong enough to condition moment of understanding that we're talking about. What are they now? Experience, but no direct understanding of the nature of just even at all. That's why there can be the understanding of the difference degree of any reality. There must be, you have heard a lot about the word sati right now, at moment of understanding. But sati, it's not right understanding. But if there is no sati, how can there be the understanding of what is heard? So it's different from other reality, which hears, but no sati of what is heard to be known as it is, little by little. There cannot be any understanding. But the object is experienced by the other realities, which is not sati. See, so very, very subtle in a moment. And they are rare because this moment is real. Seeing is there. Who can say that I didn't see when it's seen, when they see, arising and see, and then gone? So consider the truth of what is there in a moment, no matter what moment. Uncontrollable to have such and such to be object of understanding. All depends on conditions. Even thinking, see, without seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, the 5 doorways, can they be thinking about them? But by way of thinking about this person or that situation and so on, it's only a moment. And what is there in a moment? Even thinking from moment to moment in process by conditions. It's a true, just study one word at a time about what is said, whether it's true or it's not like we think at all. Begin to understand, not just hearing the different words and take it for what is the meaning of that, but what is the nature of that which is there now? It's the meaning of the word. Not just to remember, but to understand that it's there now like seeing. It's not just knowing that they're seeing right now, but what is seeing, only seeing. And seeing arises many, many times in a day, almost all day. But it's not known, it's not thought about at all. So how can it be object of understanding of its truth? That's why understanding that actually, if there's no understanding of what is there, one reality at a time, it's impossible to let go the idea of self, because what is that reality cannot be changed to be anyone or anything at all. Like hardness, see, it's not the teeth, it's not the bone, it's not the skin, it's not the nose, it's hard. Is that true? In truth, that it can experience only through body sense. It cannot be seen at all, hardness. Heat and cold cannot be seen. Is that true? But each moment is so very, very rapidly arising and falling away and no return. Only it conditions the idea and the thought of people and things of that which is there. It does not appear as it is, arising and falling away. So it seems like it's there, permanent. My house, my body, everything. So begin to consider each word of reality, of the truth of it, whether it's true or not. This is the beginning of Satya Parami. Be truthful to the truth. So is it true or is not true? Can it be known or it cannot be known? It's there, why can't it be known? But it's not just no thought about it, no word about it, to consider the truth of it, and there can be the understanding of it instantly, impossible. That's why what is there in life is what Buddha taught about. What is there? Seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, liking, feeling, remembering, and so on. They are there in life to be known, not far away at all. So very close, so close. Nothing is as close as seeing right now. It's not far away, but it's not known as it is. That's why beginning to understand the word of truth about it, and the reality which consider is not self, it's them. We heard about the name of different Cetasikas, what are there? Manasikara, attending to what is there by different degrees. For example, the Manasikara, which arises with seeing, can attend just to the object of reality which arises to perform its function in the beginning, just to attend to that characteristic. So it is known as it is when it's there. Or it's known as something when there is thinking about it. It's there, performing the function of attending, rightly or wrongly, carefully or carelessly. Or from birth to death in each life, as long as there are conditions for whatever arises. No one can stop the arising as long as there are conditions for its arising. Who knows? People were born differently. Different country, different family, different whatever is there as characteristic of one reality at a time by conditions. No one at all. Understanding the truth of what is there now as not self as it is can lead to arahataship, the eradication of kusala and akusala, which are conditions for birth and death, on and on and on. Even right now, who can stop the arising of this moment after that moment? which gone. Nothing to do but to understand whether it's true or not. It's not just to believe, but to consider carefully what is true and what is not true. And life goes on by conditions as usual. It doesn't mean that when there's no self or when there's no I and the self can do many things. In truth, no understanding of what is there as no self at all. So beginning to be truthful to the truth of this moment, this is the way to develop the understanding of the truth. For example, see, who can say that it cannot experience whatever it's now seeing? Impossible. No matter one says, no matter one thinks, no one can change the truth of the reality at all. And that is the parami, satya parami, to be truthful to the truth. Otherwise, the truth cannot be known at all. Even so true that it's not there anymore. Like that is just heard, gone forever. Who condition is arising and it's gone. But the truth is what? No thing in it, no idea. If there's no thinking about that which is heard before as something. What is that sound? See, something not known. What is called, what is used to be taken for what?
Yeah, it's so useful that we are reminded of a moment and what is there in a moment, because we are taken away by the conventional notions all the time when things happen in daily life. So I find it very precious to listen again and again to this.
And one point, Mark, you mentioned it's so difficult to know a moment, but it's not the understanding of a moment, it's the understanding of a reality that we're talking about, such as seeing, understanding the characteristic of the reality, and that reality is just arising now for a moment and then gone. So it is by understanding the nature of what appears, the seeing at this moment, that it can gradually be understood what is meant by life at existing at a moment, because the seeing doesn't last at all. And when we say so difficult, well, understanding is not easy, and that's why there has to be the beginning of hearing and considering what seeing is, just that reality which experiences for a moment and then gone. So without the considering and hearing about different realities, the understanding can never develop. And it's only when it directly understands the reality deeper and deeper that eventually it understands the arising and falling away of that reality at a moment. So it's not a matter of trying to know a moment, but just beginning to understand what appears now. And this is also the answer to Carmen's questions that she was asking about what intellectual understanding is. So intellectual understanding is not being aware of making a telephone call and knowing it's not I. That is not pariyatti understanding. The pariyatti understanding has to be the beginning of understanding what is true now, what is the reality at this moment, so that that understanding can develop. So the kind of awareness that is often taught in meditation centers, like being aware of the movements of the body or being aware of one's thinking. This is not the understanding, the pariyatti understanding about reality now, because it's thinking about stories, just like the story about turning off the leak or making the phone call. Anyone who has never heard the Buddha's teachings knows about being aware of making a phone call or turning off the leak. But the Buddha's teaching is so much deeper and more subtle. It's about what life is at a moment, what a reality is right now, seeing now, different from what is seen now. And it is this considering about what is true, what is real at this moment. This is what is the beginning of pariyatti understanding, the beginning of understanding about what life really is.
Can I ask a question about that?
Go ahead, Mark.
When I think the phrase you used was understanding what is happening in this moment, or something like that. Is that what you said?
No, because when we say what is happening at this moment, this is like back to the story of understanding, making the telephone conversation, understanding the reality, the characteristic of reality that appears now.
Yes, that's
what is happening is too vague.
Right. Understanding the reality which appears now.
Yes.
That if you say that to me, there's a lot of confusion, because there's two ways in my way. There are only two ways of doing that. That's either theoretical, like, oh, right, so that must be, for instance, seeing right now and gone already. But that seems to be very far away from what the experience is now. So the other way is, oh, well, I can go to this moment now, but that's already gone. So the only
and that's
thing
already the idea of I trying to do something, I trying to catch it.
Yes. So you say the I is in the way.
Could I just add something, Mark? And that is the awareness of the reality that is appearing now doesn't mean there has to be awareness of just one moment of that reality.
No, it's a stream.
No. So if we talk about, for example, seeing or visible object, that can be the object of awareness for several moments of seeing or visible object. And they are different moments of awareness, but because the awareness and understanding is not highly developed, the separate moments aren't known as separate moments. So it seems to be moment awareness of several moments of seeing or visible object. So it's not the rapidity of arising and falling away doesn't have to be an obstacle or a difficulty in the development of awareness and understanding. It's really more that the object itself is so different, not the rapidity of its arising and falling away. The nature of the object, that reality, which the function of which is just to experience the visible object. That's
Mark,
what is the object of the awareness, or the visible object itself as a reality which does not experience anything and can only be experienced by seeing consciousness. Yes, sorry, Shakin, go ahead.
Mark, actually, this is, I wanted to say this when you were talking with Achan earlier, that when you hear Achan say awareness or understanding what is now, it's not just that it's not understanding, she's not talking about understanding one moment. I don't think she's even talking about direct understanding, but she's talking about the understanding that's prior to that and what we call pariyatti or intellectual understanding, which is different from what you've been describing, I think, when you talk about theoretical understanding. because pariyati is still understanding of the reality now. So when the Chan says understand what is now, it's like there is seeing now, although there's no understanding the characteristic of that one reality at a time. There is some understanding that, for example, that at the moment of seeing, there's no hearing, or when there's hearing, there's no seeing. And it's now. It's just intellectual understanding. And with even with that level of understanding, I think this is what Chan was saying, and that's how understanding works as against thinking in terms of situations. And if it's not this kind of understanding, there cannot be the development of understanding. Is that it's one, whether the reality is directly understood or not, there is at least the intellectual understanding of the truth that at any given moment, there's only one reality there's one chitta experiencing an object. So if there's confidence that that is what it is, that's what is meant by intellectual understanding. And therefore, when Sarah was talking about, meditation centers and all that, that's the kind of understanding that's there, that even anywhere in any situation, in a meditation center or anywhere, it's just the same as here. There's only different moments of experiencing through the five senses in the mind. The seeing here is the same as seeing there. Hearing is the same as hearing there. Thinking is the same as thinking there. And all is just one reality at a time. And that's the way things are.
Mark,
I'm sorry, Sukina. So you're saying if one says being, knowing the reality right now means being confidence in that the reality now is only one reality at a time.
I mean, that's a confidence conditioned by understanding. It's not just a belief that it's true, but there must have been intellectual understanding, pariyati, arisen to actually know, because that's the way it is. I mean, even if you talk to a child, is hearing real? He will say it's real, but does he understand it? That's a different. But there can be understanding, the kind that we are talking about here, and the kind we are encouraging, that this hearing is just a reality.
Mark, if like one moment only, nothing will appear.
No, yes, I experienced that. Nothing. It's a shortcut in the brain if you try to experience just one moment. In my case,
like now at a moment of touching, is it hardness that is experienced, or is it a telephone or a computer?
Well, it's gone.
It's gone, but there can be the beginning of the wise considering, the beginning of understanding that it is just hardness, no telephone, no computer, no arm there at all, just hardness that is experienced and then gone. That's it. So there can be the beginning of the wise considering, the beginning of pariyati even now. It's just hardness that's touched, just sound that is heard, different from the thinking about the ideas about the different sounds.
Yes, right. So if one says experiencing the reality right now, it's not experiencing the reality right now. It is knowing what is experienced.
Beginning to understand.
Usually we use the
that
word understanding, not experiencing. Understanding. So there are different levels of understanding.
beginning to understand that the hardness now is just that which is touched, different from the touching, the experiencing of it.
Right. Yes. Well, it's still my my mind isn't really equipped to understand that right now, but maybe it will come.
I think that if there wasn't quite a lot of wise considering and reflecting and beginning to understand a little more about realities at the Pariyatti level, you wouldn't come back to listen each week and consider and ask questions. So there must be some understanding that what is heard is about the truth at this moment, different from the moments of trying to do something, trying to catch, trying to understand, thinking about my mind.
Yes, well, there is some understanding about concepts not being the reality. That understanding is at some level apparent.
Carmen, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I have a question about what is the difference between the theoretical understanding of the moment and the conceptual understanding of the moment?
Okay, if I may, theoretical, we usually talk about what's we've heard about, what's written officially in the books, and what the books say. That's theory. And theory can be like right now, I can talk abstractly about chittas and chetasikas, but while chittas and chetasikas are rising now, there's no understanding. So that's theoretical understanding. That's just theory. I don't want to use understanding, but and that's why we use the word intellectual understanding as against theoretical understanding, is that the difference between intellectual understanding and direct understanding is that direct understanding understands the characteristic of the reality, no words needed. Whereas intellectual understanding, the understanding is so weak that it's you end up just thinking about the moment. It's like you need the help of thinking and understanding to as against direct understanding of the characteristic. I mean, it starts with that. You have to hear about, for example, you have to hear about hearing being just a Dhamma. And at that moment, it means you don't have a direct understanding as yet for sure. But you need to understand that that is true before there can be direct understanding of that hearing as just
So
a reality.
you say theoretical understanding, there's no understanding, it's just from the books. Conceptual or intellectual understanding, there's a weak understanding, and then the rest with pati, then there's more direct understanding.
It's the same. It's a function of the same reality, which is understanding. And when it's theory can be with no understanding. Okay, it can be with understanding, but then again, theory is just theory.
Carmen, if I could just add, one of those terms is a translation for the Pali term pariyatti, right? Which you're familiar with. And pariyatti refers to a level of understanding, so panya. But it's understanding that is not of the level of direct understanding of a reality.
But that's the same when I went to the university. There was a lot of theoretical
well, I was just going to say that there is a kind of what we call understanding in conventional terms, and that is the best example of that is someone who has an academic interest in the subject, but not beyond that. So the lecturer in comparative religion may be able to give a very good description of Buddhism or karma or awareness or any of these terms, but it's just theoretical knowledge. The individual may have no particular interest in what that means in terms of moment-to-moment realities. So we sometimes use the term theoretical understanding to describe that, but as Sukin said, there's actually it's not a level of understanding. It's conventional idea of understanding because the person is able to discuss the subject in a knowledgeable with knowledge of the theory.
And by pariyatti, it's beyond the conventional understanding?
Pariyatti is different altogether from conventional understanding.
Yeah, okay.
It is a level of understanding of what is appearing at the present moment, but it's not direct understanding of a reality.
But
That's why
it is conceptual.
Well, what is crucial is that it involves panya. So we don't have it's difficult to use conventional terminology to describe the difference between that and conventional understanding, but we have to use some kind of conventional language. When you say it's conceptual, it's not direct understanding, but it does relate to the present moment.
I mean, to give an example, what Sarah
Can
just...
you say that the difference is that between theoretical understanding is that you at some point know that the theory is happening right now. Is that the difference?
Yeah, that's it. Mark,
happening right now.
Something
Mark,
like that.
what-
I think
yeah.
Sukin gave a good example recently of when he said when one knows, for example, that when there's seeing, there's no hearing and vice versa. So that kind of realization may occur at a time, but it's not the direct understanding of consciousness, but it is an appreciation of the theory in relation as it applies to something at the present moment.
And Mark, as Sarah was pointing out a bit earlier, that about you, that you come here again, you come back here again to listen, and that must be because there has been some level of intellectual understanding. So you can compare that with, say, another person who maybe get 100 marks in his Abhidhamma studies in university, but no interest in coming to such discussions. So we can see the difference that on one side, you have an interest in relation to the fact that it's all about the truth now. And on the other hand, that person has no such idea, and he's just interested in, accumulating a lot of knowledge just to get 100% in his class, in his exams.
Are you saying that the difference is that there is a different intention?
Intention is all with all chittas. So we are talking about the difference is actually in the understanding that what's heard, it's about the reality now. As Achan often reminds us that every word that we hear from the Buddha is about the reality now. If there's such an understanding, and that's the basis for correct study of the Dhamma.
I want to add something. Hierarchy, like studying Dhamma, it's completely different that studies other subjects. We can say theory-wise, understanding theory-wise in Dhamma, it's not same like understanding theory of any other subjects. It's come from to understand about the truth. Only
It's
Dhamma.
same, but I can have a theoretical understanding of the Dhamma, and I can have the conceptual or understanding of the Dhamma.
But that's not wisdom. Understanding is not the direct awareness of the reality, but it's the intellectual understanding from listening the Dhamma, the teachings. And without intellectual understanding, there can be never direct awareness to the Dhamma. So if there's no intellectual understanding, it's impossible to develop a direct awareness.
The question is about the difference between the theoretical and the conceptual, or the intellectual.
So one involves actual understanding and the other doesn't.
Yeah, so with one is panya involved and the other one is not.
Mm.
And then I have another question. Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, it doesn't really matter what it's called, whether the pariyatti is called intellectual or conceptual or theoretical. It's just a matter of beginning to understand about what is true now. Like if we hear that it is just hardness that is touched now, is there a beginning of understanding that it is just that Dhamma, not something there at all that is experienced? It's not yet direct understanding that, but there's a beginning to understand what is meant by that reality, which is experienced now, no matter whether we call it conceptual or intellectual or anything else. It's the understanding that begins to develop until it gets stronger and stronger to it be the direct understanding of reality. And that is different from just reading the book and reciting about the different rupas that are experienced in a day and the different kalapas that the different rupas arise in, and just quoting the theory is because the first one is the beginning to understand about the hardness that is experienced right now, even as we talk. So that's the difference.
And I have another, thank you. And I have another question. Maybe it's pretty stupid, but is there a difference between thinking and contemplating or considering on an absolute level? Because we're talking about a lot about, we consider what we heard, but and if I'm right, I heard something that is something different than thinking. So I'm curious about that.
I think thinking is a more general term. When there's considering or reflecting on what has been heard in the context of the Dhamma, that could be called a kind of thinking. So thinking is a general term for that mental activity other than what is experienced through the sense doors. What is being experienced through the sense doors. Any activity through the mind door could be called thinking. So when we talk about contemplating or reflecting on what has been heard, then obviously there is consideration of the truth about the way things are, as explained by the Buddha.
It is the
just to give you an idea
with panya. It is the reflecting, the considering, that is the thinking with understanding. So it is the pariyatti understanding. So when we talk about reflecting and considering on what has been heard about the different realities in life now, such as seeing at this very moment, different from what is seen now, it is considering about the realities with understanding that is being referred to.
But I
because
think
there can be considering and thinking without understanding, like thinking about the example of making the phone call to report the gas leak, for example. There can be lots of thinking, lots of considering, but it's not the wise considering that is the pariyatti most of the time.
But if I think and you can see me consider, I'm sure that that you think there's a lot of moments of considering without panya right view.
Carmen, if I may compare with another teaching, another part of what the Buddha said, he distinguished between levels of thinking in terms of Sutamaya Panya, Chintamaya Panya, and Bhavnamaya Panya. So what he said about this is that Sutamaya Panya is the level of understanding, the beginning level of understanding, where there's understanding upon hearing the teachings, upon hearing about the truth, there's an understanding. Now, Chintamaya Panya is what we call the level of consideration, of reflection, which I think is what you're talking about. So we can see in this situation that in the beginning, if we are new, we just are reminded about Dhamma only when we come to the discussion, for example. and otherwise we forget. But as the understanding grows, even outside the discussion room, there can be opportunity, conditions for reflection, just on thinking about the Dhamma based on the experience of the moment. For example, if you see something unusual, that can be a reminder about seeing or thinking and anything like that. That's what I think you distinguish between understanding at the level of hearing about the truth and having some understanding, and your own consideration, which is a reflection of having heard a lot and wisdom has grown a little.
Comment. So intellectually, it's all come down to the understanding. We can listen now and all that, but if there's no moment of considering or understanding, it's not an intellectually. So it has to come from the moment of understanding. That is important. It's not that, oh, study like other subject theory, do this and all that. Not like that.
And
so
Carmen,
what
I
Haji
think
is saying,
what you described is everyone's experience, that thinking about the Dhamma happens because of one's interest in it, but it's not all kusala. It doesn't have to be, and it doesn't matter that it's not. There may be some moments of awareness and understanding involved, but one shouldn't think that it has to be all kusala, because it's not
and
one's accumulated nature for that to be so.
And also, just to be sure that what I stated covered everything. What Haji just said and what Sarah I think said before that was that even when we hear the Dhamma right now, it's not just that we hear and little understanding. Often, very often, I would say, it happens that we hear and we start thinking about it. So that also can be actually the panya at the level of reflection going on.
And the main point, Carmen, is that it's not my considering or my wise understanding or my lack of understanding. It's just different dharmas, moments of panya that arise by condition and fall away, none of them belonging to me or you or anyone else.
Thank you.
And the important thing to keep in mind is the direct understanding that it's referred to as pati-pati cannot occur without the reflection. First of all, the hearing of the Dhamma explained, as we have the fortune to be able to do on a regular basis. And the reflection that is conditioned by that hearing that happens because of our interest in it and not because we think that it's a necessary thing to do. But that kind of hearing and considering are the absolute preconditions for the arising of actual awareness and understanding.
Thank you.
Perhaps Ajahn would like to add some comments now as it's getting near the end of the session.
Shall we talk a little more about a moment? How many moments? Even just now. Not the whole situation that we have talked about, but even just now, a moment. What is there? What is made by a moment? If it ask someone who haven't heard about the teachings, about the truth at all, what would they say? A moment? What is there? A moment? No idea at all. But now we understand that there are so many different moments, moment of seeing, moment of hearing. That's what we can understand. Even one moment cannot be directly known as moment of seeing. It's not moment of hearing, right? We use the word a moment of seeing. It's not a moment of hearing. But there appear now as in a moment. Now there is seeing and hearing and thinking and many things around. So what is there and what is meant by a moment? Many split-second moments in a moment, in truth. So when we talk about a moment, we learn just about that which can be known in the beginning, and then we know a little more about what is there. Not a moment, like we say, moment of seeing, moment of hearing, but there are many, many moments, split seconds moment in a moment. For example, before seeing, is there a moment? And after seeing, is there a moment? Just a moment before and after. Can it be known? Split second moments. And a moment of seeing. Even a moment of seeing is not known as moment of seeing. Right? Not a moment. Who knows that many, many moments of seeing appear, not just a moment appears. That's why we learn to understand. We just live in darkness, no understanding what is there at all, no idea, no understanding. But when there are the words about the truth of what is there now, there can be the moment of understanding how ignorance so very, very strong accumulated to take at once as soon as whatever is there as something, not understanding the difference at all, that actually it is just a moment of that particular reality. That's all. So now, what is known in a day, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, what about the moments in between a big moment? That's why when we talk about a moment, we learn to understand it. Actually, one moment cannot be known at all. A moment of citta before seeing is not known. A moment of citta after seeing is not known. But we know just moment of seeing. That's why we learn to understand the truth of what is there beyond expectation, until there can be the understanding of a reality at a time to begin to understand what appears now is not as it is. We live in darkness of ignorance. So very deep down, cannot come back to understand the truth of this moment at all. When there is no conditions to condition moment of beginning to understand the truth, little by little, to get out of ignorance, just very little, and then again, ignorance after hearing, seeing, and so on. So this is so true. That's why there cannot be the direct understanding of what is there now, when it's just not understand what is there as it is now. For example, what is seeing? If seeing is I all the time, impossible to understand the truth, that it's not there anymore, but the idea of I accumulated on and on and on, and what is taken is thing and people and something all the time. But actually, they are only the absolute truth of just a reality arising and falling away in split seconds. And we take it for a moment of seeing. But in truth, there are so many moments in between. Moment of bhavanga, in between the process, mind process and sense process and so on. It's not known. So when we talk about what can be known now, it's that which appear not as it is. But the truth is that what is the absolute truth of that which is there in a moment? And in a moment means the nimitta of a moment. See, nimitta, what is there? Without just the very, very tiny moment of experiencing an object, how can it become to be a nimitta of seeing right now. That's why I begin to understand that which hasn't been understood before, hasn't been heard about the truth before, to begin to understand, to be truthful to the truth, to understand the truth of life from birth to death. Not only this life, as long as there are conditions for whatever arises, it has to arise. Like this moment gone, and the next moment is conditioned to arise. So the moment of death gone, the next moment is conditioned to arise. On and on and on and on. But what about the understanding? Or no understanding at all? Darker and darker, so dark cannot be known what is there at all as it is. Just like living in the dream all the time. When one's dreaming, not wake up at all, it seems so true. So before there can be the understanding of the truth of a moment, see what is meant by nimitta of a moment and the split seconds moment of a moment. Imagine how can it look like, be like. A truth is a truth. A reality is a reality. That's why nothing can be done at all because it's there already. For example, birth moment. Is there anyone to do anything or it's there by conditions? The same as moment of death. Can anyone do anything or it's there by condition? Even just right now, seeing is there by conditions. Who can do? No one at all. To understand the truth, it's gone in split seconds. So how can there be take the moment of taking it for self when there is right understanding of the truth and the understanding about the truth of this moment? It's not the direct understanding of the truth of what is there as it is, a reality. For example, right now, it seems so real, but what is the truth of it? Seeing does not appear as just a moment of seeing, but it appears like I see. It's the nimitta of seeing. So what is meant by a moment? There can be the more understanding of the truth that what is meant by a moment is when we talk about that which can be known as a moment. But in truth, split seconds, moments in a moment is there. Otherwise, when one opens one's eye, it cannot be many things around appearing. If it is just like what we take it at once, but at once a moment, no, many moments are there to condition what is seen and the idea of this and that, different things. How many moments? Is this true? To have confidence of the truth. Otherwise, nothing can let go ignorance and wrong understanding of what is there to be something or I. In nothing arises, there's no I, nothing at all. But when a reality arising, experiencing an object, the nature of that which experiences can be what? When there's no understanding, it's I see, because seeing sees, but it's I see. If seeing does not arise, where is the I see? That's why I just read about the hidden truth. So very deep, very subtle, very short in a moment, and understand what is meant by a moment. Learning more about the split seconds of a moment. How many moments of hearing and also how many moments of seeing was there's hearing. They seem like they are together, but only one at a time. See, at a time, can there be more than that? One characteristic, one is one. And seeing is not feeling, they arise together. Instantly, who knows? When they do not appear, they cannot be known. But when whatever appear, there can be the understanding of the nature of that is not always there. Just very, very short, unknown, when it arises and falls away at all. Until there is the understanding of different ones at a moment. When you use the word at a moment, in a moment, long moment, not as short, as tiny, as very short as it is. And this is life. That's why not understanding the way it is, ignorance condition the idea of I, of people and things, because of the nimitta, the succession of that which arises and falls away in split seconds, condition, shape, and form to be taken for I see, I sit, I like, I stand up, I stretch my hands, and so on. See? But what is there in truth? Without the absolute realities, can there be the idea of something as I or thing? Cat and dog. That's
I
why
think we
just
can
understand what is true. And right understanding develops little by little to know what is right and what is wrong, what is true and what is not true. Is that true? Only that, understanding or ignorance. If it's not true, what is true? Sorry, it's time now.
Yes, we can continue next time.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank
Ajahn.
you.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Ajahn.
Ajahn.
Sawadee krap.
Thank you, everybody.